Welcome to the Be What You Want podcast. My name's Chris Hall, and today we're going to do a fascinating story about quite literally going from being homeless to riches. Today I'm going to be interviewing Matt Steinwede, who has for the last 2 years been nominated the #1 real estate agent in Australia by McGrath. This man is a speaker. He's also developed his own agent school where people can go to learn to become a real estate agent online. He's a motivational speaker. He teaches people about real estate, and he's got a wonderful following on both Facebook and Instagram. So with no further ado, I would love to welcome to the podcast, Matt Steinwede. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Chris.
So Matt, tell us a little bit about the recent achievements. So in 2017 and 18, I believe you were indeed nominated the #1 agent. What did that mean to you, and what kind of a goal was that in the making?
Oh, it's a long time. So I've been selling real estate for 25 years maybe. And when we changed to McGrath had all the way back then, about 15 or 17 years ago now, like the highest caliber agents in one company. So to give you an idea, I was #1 for Rain and Horn all the way back then. And then when we joined McGrath, we were offered the first McGrath franchise. We joined that. And my figures to be #1 in Rain and Horn would have put me at about 40 in McGrath. So I was like, whoa. And so all the way back then, I set a goal to be #1 in McGrath. It took me 15 years to achieve it.
I mean, McGrath is one of the top agents in Australia, so that is an incredible achievement. So congratulations on that, and I'm sure that was, and is a wonderful success to feel. What kind of personal habits do you adopt to achieve that level of personal performance?
Yeah, it's all the boring stuff. So we are just, a mate of mine says we're just glorified telemarketers as real estate agents, but I have just literally grinded my way there. So cold calling, door knocking. So when I first got into real estate, I had no car for, a couple of years or something. And then I just used to walk the streets every day, all day for years, probably a decade, just asking people if they'd sell their house. That's about it.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so those are some of the professional rituals of just doing the grind, doing what you need to do and do it in sequence, and sounds with a lot of discipline as well. What about your personal habits? What kind of personal daily routines in terms of your well-being, for example, do you do? How do you structure your day? How do you tap into productivity?
Yeah. I think it's a personal thing. I really do. How you'll see The Rock and he'll start at 4 a.m, or Eric Thomas and he gets up at 3 a.m. And I think that's great. And the 5 a.m. club. But I think what's your natural set point as well. So I'm probably like a 5:30 riser. And that first hour is, I just invest it in myself. So do something exciting, get the mind going, all of that usual stuff. But set the tone for the day. I think that's the most important thing. But why I say that is just be careful that if you're listening to this and you want to maybe upstep your results in your career, whatever you do, I don't suggest getting up at 4 o'clock because The Rock does. You've got to stretch a little bit, but I think it's finding a rhythm that works for you is the most important thing. So for instance, I slept till 7 today because I was just bloody tired. Mm-hmm. So I think if you naturally get up a little later, getting up at 6, or for instance, if you're a mum and you got kids at work at preschool and you can only work 9 till 3, it's about maximizing those hours. I've learned in chunks. I think people waste a lot of time generally. Yeah. So myself, I've got 6 kids ready, go to work, block the time all the way through. I'm super efficient with time. And then the end of the day, 7:30. So I've learned that everyone gets the same 24 hours, and it's how you use that will define your outcome.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm very much of that camp that how you start your day is how your day will unfold for the rest of the day remaining. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Are you a runner? Are you a yogi? Are you out in nature? What's your kind of personal workout routine?
Surfing.
Yeah,
surfing.
Dream.
Surfing and the gym sometimes. The gym. Like I went today. I just grab it's like people always say they don't have enough time, but you can grab 30 minutes to do exercise. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Now you've got 6 children. Again, like that's incredible to get to the number 1 agent position in a huge company and to have a family with 6 children. It's quite incredible. Now, you've got to a stage of life where you've got vibrancy, personal, professional success. Having read your bio and heard of who you were, there was a time in life when it wasn't quite as rosy, perhaps in your early 20s. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think for the people watching and listening, they'll be fascinated to hear where you've come from as well as where you've got to now.
Yeah, I was come from I was involved in the underworld in Sydney. So I guess you could call it the criminal scene in a funny sort of way. And then that I just got way too deep into that whole world and got sort of a bit stuck. And then I ended up homeless. I went from living that sort of life to nothing and living in this sort of abandoned workshop. But I was in quite a bit of trouble as well. I was under surveillance for quite a long time with the police. And then a lot of stuff happened. It's too long to share on here, but I rang a guy that I met in Terrigal maybe 6 months before. So I got sent to Terrigal to connect with the bikies up there, and I met this guy that night. 6 months later, I rang him. His name's Dino, still my best mate today. And I said to Dino, can you come pick me up? I'm going to be dead or in jail any day. I can feel it. It's coming. And so he drove down. I didn't know him super well. I had a really bad drug habit. I was in a bit of a mess. And then he picked me up, took me up to Terrigal, put me out the back of his parents' house in this sort of room. And I stayed there for 9 months. And he brought me food, helped me out. I was really in a bad way mentally and emotionally. I left with what I was wearing pretty much. And after about 9 months of just hanging in there, I rang an ex-girlfriend and I said to Lisa, what am I going to do? And she's like, where are you for a start? And I said to her, I'm in a bit of trouble. She's like, yeah, you're in lots of trouble. You've left such a mess down here. I said, what should I do? And she goes, why don't you get into real estate? And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty good. But now that I look back, I think Lisa thought all real estate agents were like dodgy or criminals and I'd be a perfect fit. So I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So I got the yellow pages. I rang everyone in there and this lady gave me a job out of a home office at Killarney Vale. And Dino used to drive me to work. A friend bought me some clothes and I used to just walk the streets every day. If Dino couldn't drop me there, I used to get the bus there. And then after about a year of just door knocking constantly, I got home one night and I was renting this room off this elderly lady called Tina. And Ray, who owned the fish and chip shop at Killarney Vale, calls me. It was about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I got the bus home, got in, phone rings, and Ray goes, "G'day, Matt, how you going?" And I'm like, "Who's this?" And he's like, "It's Ray from the fish and chip shop." And I was like, "Yeah, how did you even get this number?" And he goes, "Mate, I just want to let you know you've just been on Australia's Most Wanted." So I was on Australia's Most Wanted, and then I had to go hand myself back in then straight away. And then I went to court. All this commotion. I went to court. I had quite a lot of warrants out for my arrest and all sorts of things. And then I was engaged to a girl at this time, one of the kids' mums, and her mum came to court with me and Tina, the old lady I was renting a room off, and they testified. And the judge said to me, she goes, "I don't know why." She goes, "You should be going to jail for quite a few years." But she goes, "I just see some good in you." And she said, "I'm going to give you a second chance." So I had to do community service for a long time, and it took me 8 years to pay back all the fines. And when I walked out of that courtroom, I rang Dino and I said, "Mate, I'm going to make you a commitment. I'm going to become Australia's #1 real estate agent. That's what I'm going to be." And I've never looked back.
That's incredible. That gave me goosebumps. Wow. Okay. So I mean, like, there's a thing that we talk about in all this personal development stuff that I'm into called threshold. I believe it's a Tony Robbins concept. And the idea there is that we can get to a certain emotional point where it's kind of the hell no, I've had it, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm committing to this. Would you say that in all of that mix of the things that were going on, having to, change your life, take on something new, still go through the court hearing, but then get that second chance. What did that moment represent to you? Because I hear you saying, I'm committing to you, Dino, that I'm going to be the number one agent, but like emotionally, what was it? Was it some form of threshold for you where you just like, you know what, this is it, I'm doing something different now?
Yeah, I just didn't want to go back to rock bottom again. And I was like, I just had to get legal. Like I lived for such a long time, just survival, in that world. And I could see that my life didn't have to be that way. And I was like, I'm just not going to stuff it up. So yeah, it was that inner thing that's like, I think that moment was like, well, so much of my life before I sort of stuffed it up in a way, and I just didn't want to be that person anymore. So yeah, I hit that threshold, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, no, I get it. And another way of putting words on it is you can hit the bottom and you can look into the abyss, right? And you know that you could go down into the abyss, but then for a second you go, no, actually, wait a minute. I don't want to be down this end of the street. I want to go up there. I want to go somewhere else. Yeah. Wow. And that then led on to the next 15, 20 years and brings you fast forward to now. Can you tell us, at what point did you decide to become a speaker? Because there was going into real estate against that backdrop and then creating this new life, creating success. Clearly there was an expansion point even beyond that where you said, hey, I'm good at speaking. I'm good at doing events. I'm going to do my own agent school. There was a part of you that got even more expansive and thought, hey, I'm not just going to be number one. I'm going to do all this other stuff. And can you remember, was there one particular moment where you decided that, and what was going on? What were you feeling?
I actually didn't. Like about 20 years ago, or maybe a little less than that, 18 or something, there was a trainer called Lee Woodward. He's still around, still a mate of mine. And he said, oh, will you come and speak? And I'm so shy naturally. Like I'm a really shy guy. And I said, no way, mate, not a hope in hell. He's like, would you do it for me? And I was like, no, forget it. And then about a month later, I get the brochure for the seminar and I'm on it. And I rang Lee. I said, mate, why am I on this thing? He said, you're speaking. And I'm like, nah. He said, well, you're on the brochure. You have to speak now. And so I did, and I was so nervous. It was the worst talk in the world. But over time, I think people, and funny enough, like I talk to real estate, I'm a bit over talking to real estate agents now, but talk to real estate agents and talk about the real estate stuff. But most people after come up and usually go, my son's on drugs, or this is where I'm at in life. And I found the personal side of what I talk about really resonates with a lot of people. Rather than the training, I'm successful in real estate sort of thing. So after that, I could see maybe people like to hear the story.
They do. Like an event I was doing literally last night, we had several speakers lined up and they all really connected with that. Being authentically, for want of a better word, vulnerable, and just saying, hey, this is what's happened to me. This is what it meant. These were the challenges. This is how I overcame it. And look where I am now. So I think people are attracted to the combination of both the idea of material success and professional success, but then when it's combined with that level of authenticity and just going, hey, this is the real deal. There's no, I'm not sugarcoating this. This is what's happened in my life. But hey, I can tell you a story about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because everyone's got their story. Everyone's got their stuff, mine's a little bit more obscure than most, but it's like everyone's got some challenges that they've been through. And I think people there's something in here that connects when people hear that truth sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
I completely agree. Now, moving on to the professional stuff a little bit, in the world, anything like within speaking, within your real estate career, what's been your biggest professional challenge and how did you overcome it?
My mind, for sure. Like thinking that you're not good enough, or, you know, like that self-doubt has been the biggest challenge for me, I would say, because, you know, going into people's homes and, you know, convincing them that you're going to work really hard and all this sort of stuff. And then training your mind to become, you know, to be brave enough to follow your heart. It's a hard thing. It's a really hard thing. Like when we started our business 20 something years ago, me and my business partner, we had enough money to run for 8 weeks. I didn't care because I sort of like was homeless anyway. So I was like, well, I can just go back to being that and if I stuff up. But like, I think in business and success, it's always like that next thing, you know, like the expansion. It's always like this risk factor. And I think training your mind to have that resilience around bravery, yeah, that's been the hardest thing for me.
That's beautifully put. It's an interesting one because bravery and courage can be something of the heart and the body. So like one thing I joke about is if you're going to make a courageous decision, don't have a bottle of vodka the night before because you're not going to be in a good state, right?
Yeah.
But the listening to the voice and the idea of self-doubt, etc. One of the courses that I did in personal development was the Landmark Forum many years ago now. And within that, one of the things they talk about is that the voice in your head is not you. And it's just an interesting way of delineating and saying, oh, and then, you know, you've got that idea of the way of thinking about it. You've also got, you can say the egoic mind and the ego's kicking in, and that's just the ego, and that's not your deeper self, your truer self. There's all different ways of talking about it. But I think the most important common thread is this idea that you can choose not to listen to the voice of doubt in the moment, and you can choose to be courageous. And then that act of courage truly is mental discipline. It takes practice, and it also takes looking after yourself physically and emotionally and all that, because that courage literally also comes from the heart to knock on that door right then, or make that sale, or take the next step in your entrepreneurship and risk taking.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. For anyone considering going into real estate, well, you run a school, but you know what tips would you give?
Don't do it.
Don't do
it. Like, I think sometimes people think real estate's like glamorous in the funny sort of houses and dealing with buyers and sellers. It's probably the most unglamorous. You exchange all of your time to succeed. Like it absorbs your life. Yeah.
Right.
It's come at a bit of a cost for me.
Well, that's the thing, I suppose, you know, as a family man too, there's to some extent, there's an expectation, isn't there, about weekend viewings and this and that. And then, yeah, do you still work on the weekends?
6 days.
6 days. Yeah. Right. 6 days. I mean, that's another thing in itself, isn't it? You've got to find the balance within that. And yeah, I love the term. You've got work-life balance, and then you've got work-life integration, right? So within you can still find the joy and the things that you can do, even if you're working 6 days. You know, hey, you can still be a present father. You can still do this. You can still achieve your work goals. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. I think like I don't think I'm a very great dad and all of that sort of stuff. Like I try, but I've been great at work, but I'm at the age now where I'm probably understand it more. So it's taken me a long time to understand the value of other things in life as well. So yeah, work in progress.
Well, you know what being a parent's all about. It's about that humility to say I can always turn up a better person or give more to my kids. And I think it is a dangerous sign. It's when you think that you're doing it all right, because if you're doing it all right, then actually you probably need to get knocked back down into humility and go, all right, you know, what can I do a bit better? I don't know. Because
totally.
We try. We give a lot as parents. You know, it's I get it. I've got 2 kids myself, and you know, hats off to you. You got 6, so you're doing something. So again, from an entrepreneurial point of view, you've got your agent school, which is agentschool.com.au, for anyone that's interested. How did you go about designing that and taking that on as a project? Did you get people in to help you? How did you record it? How do you even go about something like that?
Yeah, I could see there was a bit of a need for it. Like we've got about 100 agents that work for us, 6 offices. we're a fairly good training organization. Like we do a lot of training and things, but out in the broader real estate world, there's not a great deal of training, funny enough. And even when I go and speak, like you go and speak and you talk about some stuff and then they see you for an hour and go again. And it's not really like, people say, oh, can I come shadow you? They might pay you $5,000 to shadow you for the day. I don't do that, but there's other agents that do that. And I've always thought that they're not really getting a lot of value from that. Like they're around you and they're connecting with your energy. But I thought, imagine having a place that was like they could just be in and take their time to learn properly, and cheap, it's cheap in comparison to shadowing someone or whatever. So I just thought it was a lot better value for people.
Yeah, value is an interesting topic in itself, isn't it? Because value, it is about dollars, but it's about the impact you can have on their life, isn't it? Like, as you're saying, it's not just about whether or not someone can pay you $5,000 to shadow you for the day. It's about truly the knowledge and the wisdom that they will glean, and they can probably glean way more out of that by watching, and participating in your online course. So
100%.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, many years ago, I had a thing called the Matt Steinwede system, and the problem with real estate is there's agents experience very little consistency because there's no real guidance. They're just there trying to list a house and sell a house. But I created a bit of a system that has literally made my results consistent year on year, right up until now, which is it just keeps building on itself. And I think that was really my driver, that to show people that there is a system once they get into real estate, because real estate has the largest non-retention rate in the world of any profession, and it doesn't need to be like that.
Do you mean, and what does that manifest itself in? Like agents are moving on to a different career, or what do you mean?
They don't know what to do, because generally when you go into a real estate office, the boss says, oh yeah, there's a desk, a diary, a pen and a phone, off you go and sell someone's house. Like it's really Lowe's, can you go in the room? It's really like there's not a great deal of training or guidance. So Lowe's, just go. Sorry, it's one of my kids.
It's all right.
Yeah, so that was really the driver for me, to show people that there is a very simple system that if they implemented it would pretty much guarantee their results.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, exactly. And that, yeah, right. Brilliant. So you built the school, you've built your career, you've got to number one for the last 2 years running. Now that you've done all of that, what's on the horizon for the next 12 months? Because I know that you're an entrepreneur. You've got that in your bones. So what's next, sir? Be number one again, I think. I just, not for any other reason, but it's just a good benchmark. Double our business. Wow.
Yeah, double our business is, it's interesting for us now. So we're getting critical mass now. So it's like we've grown very slow over the years, my business partner and I. So my business partner runs the business. I sort of work in the business, but we sort of do everything together. We've got great corporate structure now. So now it's doubling the business is the goal. Nice, easy goal, Yeah.
That's fantastic. And are you putting a time frame on that? Because a goal is always an inspiring one with a deadline, right?
Yeah, we've planned it out. Probably like 3 years, we'd probably get there. So our goal is to get to $100 million business, and it's that will probably be like 5 years, I'd say. Maybe a touch more than that, but around that. But we're not big on time frames. It's sort of like we're big on just keep working towards that.
Right, got it. And know that you're making. Do you know what it is? It's, Jim Rohn, the motivational speaker, put it very well. He said, "Success is the steady progress towards one's personal goals." So, as long as you can measure it, feel it, see it on a regular basis, and it's also in accordance to your values and your lifestyle that you want, that literally is happiness, because it's not stagnation. It's the opposite of stagnation. It's growth.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. That's the exciting place to be, isn't it? As silly as it sounds, like I'll get excited every single time I see a new subscriber log onto this podcast on one of the mechanism. So if you have liked this episode today, please do remember to subscribe. Well, Matt, look, it's been a real pleasure having a chat with you today. It absolutely blows me away to listen to what you've achieved, where you've come from, what you're doing next over the next 12 months. Where are the best places for people to find the various forms of your work, be it your work at McGrath or indeed your online presence and your speaking presence?
Yeah, I gave social a bit of a break for the last couple of months because I've had a couple of problems with a couple of my older kids, and I didn't feel very authentic about doing anything while that was going on. So, but yeah, just Matt Steinwede everywhere. Wherever you look, I suppose there's no other Matt Steinwede there. So.
Actually, for
just
people, it's Matt with one T.
One T.
Yeah.
And Steinwede spelt a weird way. Weed.
WEDE at the end. Yeah, indeed.
That's it.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, look, it's been a real pleasure having a chat with you tonight. I really want to thank you for your time, for coming on the podcast, and we'll hope to see you downtown sometime soon in person, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Cheers, brother. Take care.
Yeah.